Our next speaker is Anna Laura Gierhart. Anna is interested in specializing in cetology, the study of whales and dolphins. From a young age, Anna was captivated by cetaceans during annual whale watching trips in Maui, where listening to humpback whale songs through a hydrophone sparked her passion. Her interests lie in the conservation and research of marine mammals, especially at the intersection of sustainable tourism and policy. Anna's experience includes working with the U.S. Navy Marine Mammal Program and assisting in the necropsy lab at NOAA, dissecting dolphin stomachs. She recently completed her fieldwork for her current project in Kaikōura, New Zealand, where she spent many weeks. And she will be presenting this project and giving a talk at the Society for Marine Mammalogy Conference in November in Perth. Anna is ride or die marine mammals, and I dare you to try to get her to work on something else. I know that she's going to have a big impact in this field throughout the course of her career, and I'm really excited for her to share her presentation with you today. The title of her presentation is Effectiveness of Policy to Reduce Disturbance of Dusky Dolphins by Swim Tours in Kaikōura, New Zealand. Welcome, Anna.
I sat on the back of the boat, eagerly anticipating for the horn to blow. Meanwhile, a massive pod of very playful dusky dolphins were doing a complete circus act, with some of them even doing 360-degree spins in the air. We seemed to grab the attention of a small pod of them when they approached the back of the boat to play in the wake. The boat slowed down and issued the horn, indicating that it was time for us to get in the water. Bundled up in my wetsuit, I put on my mask and snorkel and dove into the clear blue waters of Kaikōura, New Zealand. I was soon swimming alongside a pod of very curious dusky dolphins. While swimming with the dolphins, I noticed tiny details on each of them that helped me identify different individuals. One particular individual stayed especially close to me for the entirety of the swim. I noticed a white mark on the right side of its lower right lip. It almost looked like someone had painted its lips with white lipstick. I swam this particular individual on at least 6 different occasions when I was in Kaikōura. It was always an extra special day when I got to swim with this dolphin, who I nicknamed Lipstick on a swim. The curiosity between this creature and I was undeniable, prompting me to wonder what the effect of this activity was on it. Never before in my career had I encountered wild dolphins that voluntarily interacted with swimmers for such extended periods of time. New Zealand's rich waters host over 51 known species of marine mammals, representing approximately 50% of the world's cetacean species. The Department of Conservation is crucial in implementing and enforcing policies to protect marine mammals, striving to ensure sustainable and responsible tourism practices. Operators must navigate cautiously near marine mammals. To minimize disturbance, vessels should travel no faster than idle speed within 300 meters. No more than 3 vessels, including aircraft, are allowed within 300 meters of marine mammals. Furthermore, whales and dolphins are to be approached from the behind or side, avoiding circling, blocking the paths, or cutting through groups. Kaikōura is one of the top global destinations for marine mammal watching. Located on New Zealand's South Island, its unique geography and proximity to deep-sea canyons attract a diverse array of marine life, making it a premier spot for marine ecotourism. Dusky dolphins are highly sociable animals. They are one of the smaller dolphin species, and they form groups ranging from just a few individuals to over 1,000. In the waters off Kaikōura, dusky dolphins follow the deep scattering layer migration. This nocturnal feeding allows their daytime free for resting, socializing, and mating, which they do a lot of. For over 30 years, Kaikōura has been a prominent hub for dolphin swim tourism and research into interactions between dolphins and tourists. Studies conducted on the dusky dolphin population in Kaikōura have provided valuable insights into their behavior, ecology, and social structure. Dusky dolphins are known for their sociable behaviors and interactions with tour operators, like me right there. Encounter Kaikōura is currently the only company operating tours to swim with dusky dolphins. Notably, dolphins have significant control over these encounters, deciding whether to allow the boat to approach their pod and whether to engage with swimmers once in the water. Policy changes were implemented to manage swim with dolphin tours based on research conducted in 2007 to 2009. The changes implemented included a mandatory midday rest period for the dolphins, a limit on the number of swim drops, and specific guidelines for tour operator approaches. The previous study utilized satellite observations, research vessels, and tourist vessels to gather comprehensive data on dolphin behavior and interactions. In the context of this study, a drop refers to the time that the swimmers enter the water to interact with the dolphins, while a follow is the phase after the swim that the vessel follows the dolphins to watch their behavior. I am updating this study to evaluate the effectiveness of policy measures in mitigating disturbances to dusky dolphins by swim tours. My goal is to assess the impact of these changes on dolphin behavior and compare the findings with previous research to identify trends and areas for improvement. In 2024, I conducted focal examinations from onboard swim with dolphin tour vessels to observe dolphin tour interactions closely. This method allowed me to document vessel movements, speeds, dolphin encounters, and changes in dolphin behavior and group dynamics. Observations from dolphin encounter vessels were conducted over 208 hours on 82 tours from March to April 2024. I also deployed a hydrophone throughout the research project to gather information about dusky dolphin vocalizations. Further analysis will help indicate when and why dusky dolphins vocalize more or less. Here's a short clip of one of their recordings. The analysis aimed to clarify any temporal changes in dolphin behavior to tour vessel interactions and their implications for dolphin welfare and tourism management. I measured the tour vessel's approach speed and direction and documented the dolphin responses. I recorded dolphin pod size, composition, formation, dispersion, and as well as speed and orientation within 50 meters of dolphin groups. Dolphin behavior was recorded using focal group sampling, noting behavioral state and nearest neighbor distance. Swim duration, the number of swimmers, and the number of swim drops were also recorded. Interaction details, such as the number of the dolphins interacting with swimmers, and the presence of other vessels were noted. Data was entered onto data sheets on board and later entered into Microsoft Excel. Descriptive statistics were calculated and figures were created using Excel. Statistical comparisons were conducted across various parameters, including vessel approach speeds, swim drop duration, dolphin group dispersion, and behavioral states. The vessel approach speeds were compared from the previous study in 2009 to the current study in 2024. No wake speed is less than 5 knots, which is around 9 kilometers per hour. The 2024 data show a significant decrease in approach speeds, with all approaches on average below wake speed. This indicates a shift in human behavior towards a more cautious and respectful approach to the dolphins. This change is likely driven by increased awareness and improved conservation practices. The percent of approaches from the rear, side, and front were calculated. The previous study showed a drastic decrease in the percent of times from the approaches from the front, which ensures a decrease in aggressive approaches. Consequently, in the 2024 study, I saw an increase in percent of approaches from the side and rear, which is the appropriate way to approach dolphin groups. The duration of swim interactions can indicate dolphin affinity to swimmers and tour vessels. Results indicated that the average swim duration had increased in the 2024 study. However, it was also found that swim duration typically decreased with an increased number of swim drops. This suggests while the dolphins may initially engage longer, they ultimately control the encounters by deciding how long interactions last. Additionally, dispersion was measured using the nearest neighbor distance mode, ranking from the tightest to most spread out. I compared the dolphin group dispersion to vessel approach number from the previous to the current study. The graph shows the number of approaches with the dolphins less than 1 body length apart. The higher the point on the graph, the more bunched the dolphins were. Linear regression lines were used to indicate the trends from the first to last approach. Results indicate that there's been an overall decrease in the percent of times that the dolphins were tightly bunched in the 2024 study, yet there was still a slight increase in bunching with the increased number of approaches. The study also aimed to assess the impact of tour vessels on dolphin activity levels. Each time a tour vessel approached within 50 meters of a dolphin group, the behavior was observed and categorized. Behavioral states were classified from least to most active. This includes rest, milling, socializing, and traveling. We compared the behavioral states of the dolphin groups interacting with tour vessels from the previous study in green to the current study in blue. In 2024, there's a general decrease in the dolphins actively traveling compared to in 2009 and a slight increase in inactive behaviors. I've begun comparing the results of the current and previous study. What I've shown you so far is the descriptive analysis of some of the most important parameters of this study. The data is indicating differences consistent with the policy changes, suggesting a change in dolphin behaviors as well. A comparison of the previous and current data highlights mutual changes in dolphin and human behavior. Dolphins now seem less disturbed, while skippers and boats approach the dolphins much more respectfully. The findings suggest that decreased vessel approach speeds and less assertive approaches following policy implementations may have reduced disturbances to dusky dolphins. While it's too early to draw absolute conclusions, the preliminary results indicate that these policy changes could positively influence dolphin tour interactions in New Zealand. And yes, for Dr. Bowles, these dolphins were spooked for a shark nearby. Kaikōura sustainable tourism focuses on minimizing disturbances to marine mammals and their habitats. I truly believe that these unique encounters rely on the effectiveness of conservation policies and sustainable practices. This study's success is largely due to the professional support from the Dolphin Encounter team. Their commitment to scientific research and sustainable practices, along with changes in skipper behavior and new guidelines, have been crucial in achieving these positive outcomes. I'm incredibly blessed to have had the opportunity to work on this project, and I'd first like to thank the MAS MBC program for that and my cohort. It has been an absolute honor to learn from such influential scientists within the marine biology field. I'd like to thank my committee, Dr. Tim and Wendy Markowitz, Dr. Ann Bowles, Dr. Icha Mustika, and Heidi Batchelor. I'd like to thank my research assistant, Dr. Dennis Gierhart, my dad, and everyone at Dolphin Encounter. The Bermans, Brady, Tracy, Mick, Simon, Shannon, and Coley. Sorry, wasn't expecting that part. Finally, I'm incredibly grateful for my friends and family who have supported my passion for this field since I was a little girl. I give all the glory to God for paving this path for me. Thank you. And any questions?
Hi, Anna. Thank you for that presentation. I know you worked really hard and spent a lot of time in the field doing research for this project, and it really comes through. I just want to ask, you were in the field and listening and hydrophones. Did you ever hear anything strange in your hydrophone recordings? Oh, you did.
I'm so glad you asked. Thank you for asking. I call this one Conversations in a Loud, Crowded Bar because I think it sounds like a room full of people trying to talk over each other. And there was 300 dolphins. Swimmers were in the water. Lots of jumping dolphins. So tell me what you guys think. Lots of interesting noises there. All dolphins. So, yeah.
Hey, thanks for the talk, and just really nice to be transported to Kaikōura and with those dolphins for a moment. Just following up on this, that's a pretty amazing recording. Did you record when dolphins were with swimmers and then what they sounded like when there were not swimmers in the water, and What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there was a lot of different, the skippers at Dolphin Encounter were incredibly gracious for adjusting their routines to let me have hydrophone recording time. So there was a lot of different factors that were going into play with different recordings. So for this one, there were swimmers in the water. So there's a lot of analysis to be done. There's a lot of hours of acoustic recordings right now. Me and Dr. Bowles are going to have a great summer going through it together. And yeah, so it will be interesting to see if they talk more or less when swimmers are in the water. I also have noticed that they communicate more when different dolphin species are present. So whenever the common dolphins were there, they seem to be chatting quite more. So yeah. Yeah, stay tuned.
So swim with dolphin tourism can be quite controversial, and I wondered if you think this is a model that could be used for those kinds of programs in the United States.
Yes, so the thing that works really well with Dolphin Encounter and Kaikōura is the fact that the dolphins are feeding at night and they have the whole day free to just play and do what they want. Tours are run out of the Marlborough Sounds because the dolphins in Kaikōura migrate from Kaikōura to the Marlborough Sounds. And when they go to the Marlborough Sounds, they actually feed during the day, and the tours aren't as successful there. So there are tours that are being run to swim with dusky dolphins there, but they're not as successful. And I think Kaikōura is so unique, and there's such consistent dolphins for the tours that it's a great business model. But something that was seen in the United States was the spinner dolphins. Back in 2021, changes to the MMPA were specifically for swimming with spinner dolphins in Hawaii, and they found that they were interrupting their rest periods during the day because they also rested during the day because they have the similar feeding patterns. And so that's not allowed anymore. But I do think it depends on the species. Spinner dolphins haven't shown to have a ton of affinity for swimmers, but the duskies, from what I experienced at least, seem to have an affinity for swimmers. But more research will be able to tell that. So yeah.
Thanks, Anna.